Dr. Bala, Mr. Mohan Narayan Swami, Professor Sriram, distinguished members of the faculty, fellow professionals, and young students. Good morning to everybody. Thank you. It's indeed a great honor and privilege for me to stand in front of you, and I would like to thank Great Lakes, Professor Bala, Professor Sriram, Mr. Srinath, and others for having invited me here today. First, let me confess one thing. I'm not a guest here. I'm a host. I am part of Great Lakes management. And this I'm saying out of passion, because one of my themes of today's keynote would be, whereas Srinath has very succinctly put it to me and presented to me the topics which are going to be covered by other panelists, I would say what passion means. And, you know, the earlier speakers talk about the pride. I think I'm going to end the change management. These are a couple of aspects which I thought I will share my experience. And everybody touched upon one subject. Today, Dr. Bala made us gods. In this context, I would like to say one experience. One of the churchgoers, frequent churchgoers, went to church one day, and he met the priest and asked the priest, "Tell me, what do you do?" He said, "What do you mean? Maybe this guy is a churchgoer, maybe a HR guy, you know." And he said, "No, tell me your job description, job spec. Tell me in one line, what do you do?" "Okay, I'll tell you, my friend. I do hatch, match, and dispatch." He said, "What do you mean by hatch, match, and dispatch?" I said, "You know, as a priest, when a young couple bring a child, a newborn child, I bless him or her. And when two young people get married, I solemnize the wedding. When an old man dies, I do his last rites. So I do hatch, match, and dispatch." Similarly, HR, human capital, does hatch, match, and dispatch. So we may not be a god, but at least we're a priest. And priest is very important, you know. Sometimes God may give many wishes, but it has to be executed by the priest. So this is where the human capital comes into play. And it's very important, and I'm glad that, you know, Dr. Bala has set the tone by saying it's not human as resources, but it's a human capital. And fortunately, my chairman many years ago, when he appointed me as a max, he said, "What title you would like to have?" So we discussed. Then he said, "We have been having all these titles, human resources, personal management, learning and development. So let us do human capital." I don't feel resources is any longer valid. It should be capital. And I'm glad that it's been reinforced here today. Just coming on this subject, which is very critical today and is very relevant and apt, I'm glad that, you know, Great Lakes have taken the initiative of doing this HR conclave. I'm not talking today as a HR guy. I think, you know, I would like to state that. I'm talking more as a business manager. Having spent more than 42 years, you must have seen from CV, which I would like to emphasize one aspect. I have not changed my name. I have not changed my profession. You may call it as personal management, industrial relations, learning and development. I've gone through many titles and changes in my career. But you have to bear in mind, I have not changed my name, I have not changed my profession, but my company's name, where I worked for nearly 3 decades, I changed 4 times. Youngsters, can you tell me why? The company's name I worked for 27 years, I changed 4 times. Any guesses? Mergers and acquisitions. Whether I call HMM, Horlicks Limited, Beecham Limited, SmithKline Beecham, GlaxoSmithKline. You see, what I want to say is, in today's context, as been said by Dr. Bala and set the tone by other speakers, world is changing. Globe is a village. World is flat. And when we're talking about something, we are not talking about Chennai, we're not talking about Gurgaon, we're not talking about Timbatur, we're talking from a global outlook. I think so it's very important that we need to understand that who can make this significant change. We can say that you are at the right time, at the right place, because you are young, and India has got the greatest advantage of this young youth force. But I think at the same time we should take advantage of it. In order to take advantage, who is going to make a difference? No doubt technology plays an important role, rest of the tools make an important role, but the one thing which makes very critical for any organization to succeed today is the competitive advantage is through people. Business growth is through people's growth. I think, if you read Good to Great, Jim Collins, he said, put the right people in the right seats in the buses and take out the wrong people. I think, this is the most important. They will tell you how to navigate and where to go and what the destination is. What does it mean? As the saying goes, take away my factories, take away my financial leverage, take away my brands, but give me the right people. I will deliver another company in next 5 years or 10 years, whether Alfred Sloan or Ford or Dave Aldrich, many people have said it. What does it mean? Ultimately, in today's environment, the competitive advantage lies with what kind of people you have. If you have right kind of people in the right places, those organizations go well. I think if you see the whole research on this, the two great books which have been talked about, In Search of Excellence, where they've identified the best companies, but most of the companies for the best practices based on an action-oriented research, but in 10 years' time, most of the companies you don't find a place. Why? Why? It is because it is the people who makes the difference. Who thought Lehman Brothers will not be there? Why? Because it is ultimately people who makes a difference. So I think it's important. You don't have, in India we have plenty of people, but the challenge we have is, do you have the right kind of people? So the advantage India today is IT, Indian talent. But how do you upgrade the skills to meet the current and the future requirements of the business? That's the most important thing. Can you tell me, I would like to pose this question to the youngsters. In India, which company makes maximum number of cameras? Which company makes maximum number of cameras in India? Kodak? Anyone else? Nikon? Canon? What about Samsung? Okay, we are talking about Nokia's, Samsung's for cameras. Earlier you were saying Nikon, Kodak. But the world has changed. I think what I want to say is why people can make a difference is, it is no longer just the competitor's intelligence which is important if you want to succeed. Don't think about only today. Think about tomorrow. This is where the human capital will help you to develop people not only for today, but for tomorrow. I think, who thought that Nokia or Samsung will beat Kodak, Nikon and others, Canon. These are the popular names. But just imagine, please bear in mind, this is what happened. You talk about today, how many typewriters do you have in Great Lakes here? If you ask me 15 years back, there were only 2 brands of typewriters existing. And nobody thought both the brands will vanish. Either Remington brand or Godrej. Everyone used to claim 51%. Okay, like Pepsi and Coke. But they are not here today. Vanished. Why? Technology has changed. What does it mean? If you don't, a leader is one who not only thinks about today, but he thinks about tomorrow. This is where the human capital helps the people to develop those sort of thinking. Because one of the sessions you are going to do is fostering innovation. How HR can foster innovation? I think it need not be, this is where developing leaders for the future, nurturing people for the future, mentoring people for the future. I think Dr. Bala has talked about certain things like, in order to become a good leader, you need to get a rounded experience. I think, every man, whether you are a marketing guy, you are a finance guy, you are a strategy guy, be it any faculty, I think it's important, if you want to become a leader, you need to get the rounded experience, especially the care and the touch of the human touch which is required. Understand the pulse of the people with whom you work. Without that, you can't become a leader. He talked about some examples. I'll give you one more. K.K. Dadi Seth. Dadi Seth, who became the chairman of Hindustan Levers at that time, and then elevated to the board of Unilever London, he gained reputation as a business leader, not because for his financial acumen. He is a chartered accountant and is a finance director earlier, but for what he has contributed, nurtured and developed people. So I think, it's important for everyone. Human capital management as a course is required for every business manager. It is not just for the HR guys alone. And similarly, as Mr. Mohan has put it in his talk, every leader at the top, unless he understands the pulse of the people in the current context, who makes the difference, he is not able to really drive the business to a different quantum leap. I just want to give you one instance here. As a president of NHRDN, National HRD Network, we have conducted a survey about 6 years back with the top Indian business leaders and top HR professionals through Wharton University. Professors came and have done an independent study about 100 companies, out of which 70 were top Indian leaders and 30 are the top HR professionals. And we've asked them to identify, especially the business leaders, identify the top key priorities of the business for its success and the growth. Can you imagine what are this? Every business leader said among the first two is the talent development, people and talent development. And the rest of the things, if I'd say for the interest, will be, everybody said people's development, then talked about stakeholders management, talked about the governance, talked about growth, of course growth and profits, and last but not the least, strategy. So I think, this is how it's important. You may do PGDM in any course, PGPM, whatever it is, management, as you said, but it's important that you need to understand the human capital management. Without that, I don't think, anyone can really be a great leader. You take Jack Welch. Jack Welch is known not only for his business results, but his people's development, because he used to spend adequate time with his people, the top 300 people across the world, and try to help them to nurture and mentor. So I think, it's important from that aspect, we have to keep the right kind of people at the right time in all the places. Then we talked about one of the things which you are doing in this course is in terms of organizational transformation. I think it's important. Change is constant. I know Professor Sriram may not like this passage, but I would like to say, culture eats strategy for breakfast. Do you agree, Professor Sriram? Culture eats, I am not saying it, who has said it? Peter Drucker has said it. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. It's a lovely phrase, if you really analyze. It's not just for the sake of saying it, I'm saying it. What does it mean? It means a lot. It says a lot what has been said by the earlier speakers. It says a lot. What does it mean? What is culture? Culture is the way we work and the way we live. See, it's a set of beliefs and values. It's sometimes we think we take it for granted if we see any of these values. Oh, they are motherhood statements. They do not have any meaning. Oh, nice to have these statements, but does it really mean? I think for some people it means a lot. I think, I worked in organizations, last 2 organizations where I spent 27 years and I've been working with the other one for 7 years. It means a lot. I just want to just really explain you in few lines. I think it's important. It says, in GlaxoSmithKline, they said, what is the purpose of this organization? They defined, our global quest is to improve the quality of human life by enabling people to do more, live longer and happier. He said the most important statement is, our global quest is to improve the quality of human life. Quality of human life, by enhancing the quality. It means a lot. What does it mean? They have disposed of all the brands when they merged between GlaxoSmithKline and Beecham, that brands which cannot clinically prove that it can add value to human life. For example, Yardley talcum powder was a big brand of GlaxoSmithKline Beecham. Similarly, if you see, Silver Cream, Bill Cream, they were cash cows, but they disposed of because it was not aligning with the purpose for which they are doing the business. That is one view, and they have taken it. That means walk the talk. Once you set the tone at the top, it's important that you need to cascade down at all levels of management. This is where HR can play an important role in influencing people. You follow the alignment. Similarly, in Max, we said we are in the business of life. It's very easy to say we are in the business of life. What does it mean? We disposed of all those businesses which are not, we care for life, we protect life, we enhance the quality of life. But rest of the businesses, be it IT, ITES, health, in terms of not related to health businesses, all been disposed of. So it's important that you need to, HR can play an important role in bringing that alignments with the business view, with the people's view, so that, it can move forward. The last but not the least if you talk about is execution. I think, deliver what you promise. Sometimes HR being treated as a function which doesn't add value to the business. It is more a support function. So I think here I would like to just say one example. I have been HR profession for 42 years. GlaxoSmithKline believed that always the HR manager is on the board of the company. I have been in the board of HR. I have been in the board of the company for last 20 years. Even though I've retired, still I'm continuing on the board because they wanted a HR resource in the board. And this company had HR person on the board since 1975. That means it respects HR guys that they can add value to the business. I may not have become a CEO of the company, but I do not see myself anyway handicapped because being in the board, you are looking at the business per se, but not looking only at the human capital. I think, it's important that we need to have this. I think it's important we need to have this perspective, especially for youngsters. Please do not think that by taking HR route, you can't become a director, you can't become a CEO. But you need to bear in mind, every lieutenant will not become a general. There is only one person who becomes a general. So you need not necessarily that all the marketing guys become a CEOs or finance guys become CEO. What is important is, can you add value to the business? Whatever role you have. I think when you have, I never felt that by not becoming a CEO, I had a handicap. Because I had other roles. You are in the board of the organization adding value strategically to the organization. So from that aspect, I think it's important that we need to bear in mind. Then last but not the least, talking about the change management. Change is constant, change is dynamic. Especially when the downturn is taking place, I think we talked about great places to work and all. One thing which I would like to say is that GlaxoSmithKline was rated as the top best employers consecutively from 2002 to 2005. When I was a HR director, it was a team contribution, but what I want to tell you is that too after merger and acquisitions, where we have to make many people redundant. In the downturn, after all this happened, to be rated as the best employer is not easy. What does it mean? It means what sort of a culture the organization have, what sort of a leadership it has got, does it really believe walk the talk? These are the things very important. There are 5 key requisites for change management. Number 1, organization as hero. I think Ms. Mohan talked about the pride, and Dr. Bala is talking about it, about Great Lakes. I think what is important, you need to be proud to be associated with your institute or with your organization. Today I talk about GlaxoSmithKline or Max because I'm passionate about it. So you should be very proud. And I want to tell you one instance here. SmithKline Beecham used to do a survey, global survey, once in 2 years. There used to be 20 questions. One question was rated very high all the time. This one question is, I am proud to be associated with SmithKline Beecham. You know, the rating globally used to be more than 90%. Other points they used to score 40, 50. But directors of the board used to say it, oh my God, if less than 90, they used to get worried. Why it's happening? Because it's very important, if you want to succeed in life as a leader, as an organization, as a team, it's very important that you need to have that passion. Passion, pride, and then passion to work with it. Similarly in HR, if you want to succeed, it's a service oriented. As you said, whether employee first or customer first is a different aspect. But I think it's important that you need to have that pride and the passion that I work, that I'm associated alma mater of Great Lakes, or I serve Great Lakes, or I serve SmithKline Beecham or Glaxo, etc. I think that makes a difference between it. Number 2, team learning and sharing. I think if you want to succeed in organization, be it anywhere, you need to work as a team player. Everybody doesn't get Nobel Prize, but there are 10,000 people who contribute to get one fellow Nobel Prize in medicine, because drug discovery is so important. But everybody cannot expect Nobel Prize, but others have to contribute. So team learning and sharing is important. Unfortunately in India, when we do teamwork, we do not work together. Two tennis players do not work together to win many Wimbledon and Grand Slam titles in India, because they partner with someone else, because they can't play with another Indian. That is the unfortunate. We pay Pakistani, but we don't play with Indian. So that is the unfortunate thing. We need to get over it. Third, personal resilience. I think, it's important that you need to have some mission and you need to achieve. If you don't keep scoring, you are just practicing. I think, it's important, especially for HR, you need to have milestones and you need to achieve the milestones. So, otherwise, for example, there are people who are through adversaries have gone through. Example, Sudha Chandran, who had an amputated leg, but she had a dream to become a dancer and ultimately she has achieved it. It could be an extreme example, but what is important is personal resilience. Fourth, strategic communication. Communicate to the people at the right time, at the right place, especially in management. If you want to really succeed, you need to know how to communicate, when to communicate, and what to communicate. Last but not the least is hardwiring the soft stuff. It's important that you need to have values, but how do you translate those values into actions is the most important aspect we need to say. So, broadly, I really commend that, you have panel discussions on strategic execution, fostering innovation and organizational transformation. These are all important. Before I end, I want to say, if you want to succeed as a business manager, you need to have the art of tough love. Tough love. Have you heard the word tough love? Yeah, what does it mean? Tough on issues, soft on people. You have to take a tough calls, some business calls, as long as ethical and your conscience permits, you need to do it. So sometimes you learn from role models, and while concluding, I need to acknowledge it. My role model to start with is my father, who is happily and healthily still alive. When I was in the senior Cambridge, I was reading in the morning. My father was a city magistrate at that time, Hyderabad. He dressed up and he was about to go at 4:30 in the morning. I was surprised. He said, 4:30, a magistrate going out never happens. He said, son, today is your last exam. When you come back, I'll talk to you. He went away. In the night I finished, I was very curious to know what happened. Today I went to execute a witness a death sentence as a city magistrate. There were 6 city magistrates there. They come by rotation, but most of them were ducking for some reason or other, and I have to do my job. So then he told me one thing. Don't you think it's feel very hard and tough? You see, look, you have to perform your duty. I think, once you think like that, things will be all right. Do not get into your mind. It's happened. After many years, I became a HR guy. And, I was running a factory. I was very young. I used to be very tough with leaving people, if they're absent and all. So I'm dismissing people. It's a small town in Andhra, Rajahmundry Horlicks factory. So when he used to step down, my son was 3 years old, he used to come to see me off with my wife. When I used to get into my car, somebody used to come and fall on my feet with a small child. The wife of the guy whom I dismissed and all that, praying, please reinstate him and all. My son has seen him for 3-4 days. And later he said, what is Papa doing? Why is he doing that sort of a job? So I think, I was little bit, feeling, oh, am I doing right thing? Then, my father at that time was a judge. We used to dine together. And, next day morning I used to say in the paper, my father has given a death sentence. But early at night there was no feelings, emotions. Then I asked him one day, is it not ruthlessness? He said, no, it's a rigor of discipline. And this is, I think, reinforced if you see Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, he talked about rigor of discipline. So, when, sometimes you do pleasant jobs, sometimes you need to do tough jobs in life. It's not that you brag about them, but, if a GlaxoSmithKline has done, they've asked once, you have to close a factory because of the merger. I think, if you apply your mind in the right direction, you can do it. If you not, then how I can't do it, I have to back out. Then many things in life you need to back out. So I think it's important that you embrace the art of tough love. I thought I'll just share with you. So the role model is my father and my mentor, who was a British managing director for me for 24 years, who also taught me how to work when you are under stress. I think calm down first. I think so it's important in life, you need to bear this in mind. Incidentally, I'm mad out of this. My son who said, what is Papa is doing, why is he doing the job? He is also a successful HR guy today. So I think he said he was influenced, impacted by me. So I think, it's important that, you need to have your role models, you need to have personal missions. To conclude, there are 4 kinds of people. People who watch things happening, people who do not know what's happening, people to whom things happen. But distinguished minority are those who makes things happen. I wish all of you are in this distinguished minority. And thank you very much for your attention.